What's a red flag you don't mind so much in a potential SO? Story 1. Someone who isn't close to their own family. I'm not close with mine, either. I'd actually think it was refreshing to be with someone who understood and felt the same way. Reply. It took a team of doctors to tell my GF. You don't have to maintain a toxic relationship just because they're your parents. You wouldn't tolerate their abuse from anyone else, right? So you don't need to tolerate it from them. You can love them from a distance and disconnect for the sake of your mental health. Things have been 10 times better since she went no contact. It still hurts, but it's better. Reply 2. Earlier this year I was dating a guy who was all about his family. When I told him that I wasn't close with my parents and hadn't seen them in years, he was always trying to convince me that family is always worth it and it's tough to carry that much hate around. He was, according to him, very close with his family. Prior to meeting his family, he told me that within 5 minutes he typically gets into screaming matches with them, and that's just how they communicate. Him, his parents, and his siblings all had major financial issues, co-signed loans, etc., psychological issues, and drug issues which all negatively affected one another and tied them together in this awful way. Luckily, I ended the relationship before getting to meet them because I soon realized this was his idea of normal. Sometimes being too close to your family is more of a red flag. Story 2. I've been told my lack of social media is a major turn-off and a major red flag. But I find a guy that doesn't have any social media or very little attractive. It's all about perspective. Reply. By idiots, I'm sure. Reply 2. I think it's quite the opposite. I realized what a huge red flag is for the other person to be way too active and too dependent on social media. Story 3. Not having a lot of prior relationships, as an older person. When I met my husband, he was 34 and had had only one serious relationship up until that point, which was 15 years prior. Now I know a lot of people would see that as a waving red flag and think there was something wrong with him. But the reality was he was in a male-heavy specialty, engineering college to an engineering job, had a job where he traveled about 90% of the time, and, when I met him, had just moved back to the area where he had grown up after being away for over 10 years. None of that was conducive to meeting people or a relationship, and, beyond that, he's not a particularly social person or someone who really revels in the company of others, which didn't help. We met online, we clicked, we started dating, we got married 2 years later and are still married 18 years later. Reply. That was something my ex always held against me. She was always saying I was so immature and that I'd be lying to her and cheating on her because I never had a lot of long-term relationships. Funnily enough, she was the one who cheated on me and lied to me. It's just projection. Story 4. How a man treats his mother is a sign of how he'll treat you, so be careful. Or if he dislikes his mom, doesn't want to help her, be there for her, talks bad about her. It could be because she's horrible and it's just a sign of how she treated him. Reply. IMHO. The bigger red flag is when the man has a super close relationship with his mom. Like if a man expects you to compete with his mother, run. Reply 2. Biggest red flag is when they're really close with their mom and does whatever she tells him to do. But she is manipulative, toxic, and then you end up being the one to take care of him emotionally. Bonus points if he has a deadbeat sibling that she treats way better and doesn't expect anything from. And extra bonus points if his dad died a few years ago, so it's easier for her to guilt trip him into doing whatever she asks. Is this oddly specific enough? I'm not bitter, I swear. Story 5. I don't mind some mild possessiveness. In fact, I think it's kind of hot. I blame all the Wattpad stories I consumed during my formative years. Reply. I don't know if I'd even call mild possessiveness a red flag. I think not being possessive at all would be more worrisome for me. It would feel like they have no investment in the relationship at all. Edit. Just to clarify a bit, I'm not talking about jealousy. Jealousy is the fear of losing something or someone. If you don't have enough trust in your relationship to not get jealous, It's definitely a red flag that something is off. I'm talking about the person actively wanting to monopolize your time, sometimes wanting to be a priority in your life and feel like they matter more than most other people. Reply 2. I used to think this too. And then I got into a relationship with my now husband. I used to tell him it worried me that he never had feelings of jealousy. He just kept saying that he trusts me and if I ever choose someone else then he would be devastated, but he won't stop me. Then one day I went out and he couldn't get a hold of me. My phone died and I didn't think it mattered. But he called everyone we knew looking for me. When I finally got in touch with him, he cried with relief. He said he was terrified I was dead. He called the hospitals. It was then that I realized the difference between jealousy and caring. He never thought I was cheating or being secretive. I was careless and didn't think it would matter. He just wanted me to be safe. It changed me. Now I always am fully transparent to ease his mind, share my location, give a time I will be home. Because he loves me and will worry if I'm not here. But we have never gotten into fights about why I am looking so good, or why are you talking to that dude? I talk to whoever I want. And vice versa. Story 6. Not being very communicative or chatty through text. Some people simply aren't into texting. I dated a guy who was like that. At first I took his lack of communication and short answers as not being interested, when in reality, he simply wasn't much of a texter. I just accepted that's how he was. In person he was great. Story 7. Someone who's been single for a long time. I find jumping from partner to partner more concerning. Some people never figure out who they are on their own. Reply. I find this you described not a red flag. Some people are quite secure in who they are, want to get to know one person at a time, and want a partnership that's more committed or serious, but things don't work out with a string of people. Shit just happens, sometimes it takes a while to find that person. Story 8. A certain type of dating history. Everyone has their own style of dating. For example, person A has a history of 3 to 4 year LTR but has never married while person B doesn't have any relationships beyond 6 months. Person A thinks it's a red flag that person B can't commit, when the reality is they simply end a relationship they don't see going long term. On the other side, person B thinks it is person A who can't commit based on the fact they have years-long relationships but don't progress. It's all relative to how you compare the person's history to your own style of dating. Story 9. Back when I was dating, I didn't mind a girl with a lot of experience. Reddit loves using the term body count. If she wanted to be with me after being with lots of other guys, that told me I must be pretty damn good. Reply. Until we get some experience into us, most people probably think of sex as a little weird, unfamiliar and even uncomfortable. Now I'm not a kid anymore, I don't really see the appeal of having to walk someone through that whole stage. Story 10. Someone with mental health issues. I basically screened for that when I was dating. Hubs had one depressive episode in his life, meanwhile I struggle a lot with it. But just him having the one episode allows him to know somewhat what I go through and be there for me in a way someone who never experienced depression couldn't. Hey, stop. You're pretty cool. Subscribe for more. Yo.